It took a little bit over a month, but Penn State has found a replacement for quarterback Marcus Stokes in the class of 2023. The up-and-coming, sort of a rising star in Jaxon Smolik, who commits to the Nittany Lions. We'll break that down on today's Blue White Illustrated Breaking News. As always, when there is a commit, the bat signal goes out for Ryan Snyder, our recruiting insider. And this, as I said, is a big one. Quarterbacks are always a big deal. So we're going to be talking about Jaxon Smolik, the three-star quarterback that committed to the Nittany Lions. So Ryan, a really, really interesting story and a very interesting person in Jaxon Smolik. Tell us a little bit more about the new Penn State Nittany Lion.
Yeah, awesome kid. We talked about this, I think, on our last two podcasts. Just really was impressed with him. I had a good interview with him last Friday, it was, and just says all the right things. I mean, he will fit this program perfectly off the field. And really, what we saw at that camp, on the field too. Before we get to that, though, I mean, a little bit more of a timeline for him. Just kind of want to explain to people who haven't been following this. So Jaxon Smolik commits to Tulane on June 23rd. And at the time, Tulane was kind of the only school, the biggest school showing interest. There were some others, a couple of FCS, I think maybe a MAC school or two. And, great commitment, right? I mean, Tulane's an up-and-coming program. It looks like a good move. Tulane gets on him early, great move on them. A week later, he gets to go to the Elite 11 finals because Nico, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Tennessee, five-star quarterback, decides that instead of going to Elite 11 finals, he's going to participate in his volleyball teams, I don't know if it's championship or some sort of tournament with his volleyball team. So Jaxon Smolik gets an opportunity of a lifetime. And not only does he go out there and perform pretty much pressure-free, as he explained to me, but he does a great job. As Charles Power, our On3 scouting director, kind of explained, not only did he get better each day, but he ended up finishing among the top 11 in Charles's kind of overview. He said he was one of the best guys during 7-on-7, which, hey, I mean, that's the one day you're actually throwing against live competition, right? In a
if there's a time
setting.
to shine, it's right then.
Right. Yeah. I think he said 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. It was like 9 for 16 or something like that. I don't have the stats exactly in front of me, but just solid performance and goes out pressure-free. Great job for him. And as good as that worked out for Jaxon Smolik, it didn't work out too well for Tulane because Penn State gets that information. Of course, I have to also mention Marcus Stokes, of course, who got an offer from Florida right before that Elite 11, goes to the Elite 11 already holding a Florida offer, which we didn't know about. And then he commits to Florida just a couple days after the Elite 11. When that all happens, of course, Yurcich starts looking around, and Jaxon Smolik pretty much emerges as top guy right off the bat. There were a couple others, Ty Diefenbach, who ironically got a Tulane offer, I think like a day or two ago. So that looks like he's going to be the guy Tulane maybe pursues. He's currently committed to UNLV. There were a few others. CJ Tiller was a Boise State commit who came out and camped at Penn State. Couple other guys too, but really Smolik was the one that kind of made the most sense on and off the field. And then, of course, he comes to camp on July 29th and puts in an excellent workout. We got to watch him throw. T. Frank, you can break that all down. But the one thing, the testing numbers I wanted to bring up here was just kind of comparing Stokes and Smolik, who both camped at Penn State this year. Both are good athletes. This isn't me trying to knock Stokes. It's just me trying to show how good of an athlete Smolik is. He came in and ran a 4.740, which is a great time for a 6'1", 200-pound quarterback. And he had even more impressive 4.3-second shuttle, which is like, guys, that's moving. That's really good for a quarterback. We compare that to Stokes. Stokes had a 4.88 and a 4.6 shuttle time. So Smolik came in and proved that he's a heck of an athlete there. And I believe Smolik had a better broad jump too, which measures explosion, which isn't a massively important stat for a quarterback, but he did have a 9.7 broad jump. I think it was a 30-foot triple broad. Compare that to Stokes with a 27-foot triple broad. So just he's a pretty good athlete. That's really what we took away from that camp. And he threw the ball well, T. Frank, which I know you got to watch him closer than I did. I know that was kind of your thing that whole camp.
Yeah, pretty much the whole time I was watching him. And at this point, he was on our radar, right? So I had done some previous work on him and really his story from high school. Kind of got to know some of the information about him and what he went through this previous year. So I was interested to see how strong his arm was, and I wanted to see how he threw on the move. And a couple of those things did stand out during that day. But one of the things that's the biggest thing, and we'll get into this a little bit, I'll show you a little bit later, just kind of confirming what you see on film and then getting some more details. Another thing I really liked is he looked like he had gotten bigger. He looked like he'd filled out a little bit. The testing numbers that you just gave us back that up as well, that he had spent the last year, working on his physical conditioning, getting bigger and stronger, and all that came up. So he was clearly one of the players that stood out from a movement perspective. He moves like a Division I quarterback. He's got the quick release, all those things. Seeing him up in person and seeing him work with Mike Yurcich, it was illuminating to see all of those things. But it's funny because he's 6'1", and there are other quarterbacks that are 6'2", 6'3". There's a guy there that was 6'6". So literally he didn't stand out in that way, but that was pretty much the only other way where you'd say all these other guys look like quarterbacks, but he's performing like a quarterback. But going back to that timeline of, his journey to Penn State, a lot of this is set up because of his junior season where he had a pretty bad collarbone injury. You talked to him about that and kind of his junior season. So give us some of those details of what you and he talked about of how all of this was set up.
Right. So, yeah, he breaks his collarbone in, I think he said it was a first game, first series. And It wasn't just a normal collarbone break, too. He said it kind of came out of his skin and everything. So that's, was that a compound fracture? I believe it is. I'm not a doctor, but I think that's the terminology. It wasn't good.
It's also one of those ones that makes you go,
right. Exactly.
That's the scary one.
You and your faces. I love them. So he comes back and plays last year. I believe he played the final 4 games of the year, threw for 959 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So we did get a little bit of film on him. Yep. I think 1 or 2 of those were playoff games. I got to double check on exactly which ones were, but 65% completion rate. So just like some solid stats there. But I think what's encouraging about that is, he's a mid to high 3-star right now, and he's about to have a senior season, committed to Penn State now. And that's going to get the eyes on this young man. So he has a real potential to, I don't think he's going to be skyrocketing and, become a top 100 quarterback all of a sudden. But I think he's absolutely a guy that can maybe crack a 4-star, 4-star rating or so. I mean, there's, I think 350 or so 4-stars. So I don't see a reason why he, with a good senior season, a complete, film and all that kind of stuff, just gives Charles Power a reason to really look into him. Of course, I mean, Charles said he didn't really know Jaxon at all, and his first impression at the Elite 11 was pretty darn good. So there's a lot to be positive there, and I'm looking forward to that. I guess I got to go to West Des Moines, Iowa now. That was a flight I wasn't planning on taking a couple months ago, but I need to look it up.
Which one's harder to get to, West Des Moines, Iowa, or State College? Because it sounds like State College.
Probably State College. Probably go to State College. I mean, for a flight, probably State College. Yeah. But I mean, it's quarterbacks, right? And quarterbacks are like, I was absolutely planning to go down to Florida to see Stokes. So I think I need to take a trip to Iowa, which would be my first. I've never been to a game at Kinnick, so. We'll have to look into it, see if we can make the flights work. But I mean, if you're going to travel, right, you want to travel to see quarterbacks or running backs or wide receivers, guys who are getting the ball, putting up film, and quarterbacks. I mean, obviously they're touching the ball 30, 40, 50 times in a game. And that's, if you're going to pay for a flight, that's the one to do.
And his offense, he's in control quite a bit. It's an RPO spread offense. So you're going to see him throw a lot of passes. And we'll get into that in a full breakdown of T. Frank's film room, which will be coming up at bluewhiteillustrated.com. You can check it out there. We're going to get into a little bit of that here. But I think you set the table perfectly for this. And I'll throw this back up here again for Jaxon Smolik. He is a 3-star player, as you mentioned. He is in the 800s in the On3 consensus, which equally rates all of the different scouting services. And there's not a lot of difference here. 31 overall quarterback, 9 in Iowa, 30, I think it was just up there, 38, 39 in the consensus. So that is pretty consistent. And I think that you're talking about him getting to a 4-star. It is going to be at the edge of a 4-star because of some of the things we talked about. Now, let's get into the film and kind of give some context to this, because that is actually a very interesting question about what is his upside. Do we know Jaxon Smolik's upside because of that injury you talk about? When you break your collarbone and it's a compound fracture, The fact that he came back and played in the same season, to me, says so much about him, and it says so much about his dedication to football. And also, that takes a certain level of talent as well to be able to perform in those circumstances and situations. Now, one of the main things that pops out on film, and I'll show you here, is that the arm strength is what it is. It's not going to blow you away. And I think even in person, it was good. Zip on the ball, in short routes, zip on the ball to intermediate parts of the field. And he throws a very catchable deep ball. This is one that I really like to show because it goes up, and you can see a little bit off platform, goes up, comes down in the receiver's breadbasket. So an accurate deep ball thrower, that if there's anything that has been a consistent thread with Mike Yurcich quarterbacks, they all throw catchable deep balls. They're all very good and accurate on those plays. So that's a huge positive. But with the arm strength, throwing off platform, some of them come out a little low, some of them come out a little flat. He doesn't have the power to throw from any platform and to throw any ball to any position on the football field. So that is going to be something, and I know, from talking to Charles, what he's looking for in his rankings and how he wants to rank quarterbacks kind of in an NFL draft style. If that doesn't improve in the fall and he is, good arm strength, then, that 3-star might be the threshold, but it might get him ranked. He might be somewhere much higher than he is, because I think that is absolutely a fair thing to do with Jaxon Smolik, because everything else about being a quarterback, all of it's there. He is as you mentioned with those testing numbers, he's a mobile athlete. He's a good runner. I wouldn't say he's a natural elusive player. He's not electric, but he is, when there's open green grass, he's going to take all of it and you're going to pay for it. Good decision maker. I mentioned he's in an RPO system, so he's making those checks. He's making those reads pre-snap. He's got to do all of that. It's a 5-wide system. It's a shotgun system. A little bit like what Drew Aller was doing last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a fair comparison of the offensive system. Maybe there's a little bit less, and he's coming back from an injury, so I don't know how much was on his plate before that, but there's a lot on his plate mentally, and I think that's good. Accuracy, releases quick, all those things that you want to see. If you don't have the headliner of arm strength, he's got all those other things. Couple things, though, that I think make me a little bit concerned. He is not the best athlete, and this was even at camp, where rolling to his left, he was not super accurate. If you flush him out of the pocket to the left, there's some issues with his consistently delivering the football on location, and every once in a while, a ball just doesn't come out right. So I would say he's accurate, but not one of those guys that you go, wow, he can put it on a dime anywhere on the field. He's 95% of that. So becoming consistent in that area, I think that's an area he can improve. And then the physical upside, that's kind of the last box that we check. And I hate doing this, Ryan, but he's 6'1", 202 pounds, 3-star. He's got that gutsiness to him where he just makes plays. We are going to have another Trace McSorley comparison on our hands by the end of this.
Oh, God. Another. That's all we talk about. Everybody's compared to Trace.
Just need to have a different quarterback play so we can compare to somebody else.
Bo Perbula, now Jaxon Smolik. I mean, who's it going to be next year? Anyway.
Yeah, so that's kind of a nutshell. And if you want to get some of the more intricate details, see a little bit more of the film, and get the full breakdown, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com is where you get T. Frank's film room and get all that information. Anything left on Smolik? Any meat we left on the bone here as we're wrapping up?
Yeah, well, one thing I want to say is I think fans will be like, okay, so Penn State flipped the kid from Tulane, big whoop.
Yeah.
Well, let's also just mention here that Wisconsin and Notre Dame were, as soon as kind of the cat got out of the bag, I think that's the right phrase. It might not be, I don't know. But they started showing interest here too. Jaxon also did have an undisclosed offer from SEC school that he asked me to just kind of keep off the record, which we did. But now that he's committed, I think it's okay for me to mention that there was an SEC school who offered him. He asked, like I said, he just didn't really want that out there. So there were other schools. Cal offered him too shortly after the Elite 11. So there were some other Power Fives poking around. And again, this is a situation where, boom, it goes to Elite 11. Everyone's like, wait, who's this guy? And then you got 4 games of film last year. So this is Penn State making a quick, I don't want to say a quick decision because they did their research, but getting on a guy quick that they clearly identified as someone that works in their scheme. But if you let him go uncommitted, or even if he stays committed to Tulane, I have no doubt in my mind that put together a good senior season, more Power 5 programs were going to come calling, especially after that Elite 11, whether Penn State keeps Stokes and doesn't look at him or not. Other schools were going to show interest here. So this is I think a quality player, and like you said, there's plenty of things to work on. But man, there have been a couple guys this year who've I've interviewed them and been like, holy cow, like you're more mature than I am right now, and Jaxon Smolik is certainly a player that fits that mold. So he's going to be everything that Penn State fans want off the field. Of course, Drew Aller, Beaupre Bueller, Christian Veilleux, there are some great quarterbacks in that room right now. But this guy's going to come in and fight and be a leader at the same time and do whatever he has to do to help this program. And from that perspective, I think Penn State fans are going to be really happy with that.
Any more surprises this week, and I don't think I'm going to be able to handle it. We're going to leave it there for the Blue White Illustrated breaking news here. Jaxon Smolik committing to the Nittany Lions on a Friday afternoon. We'll be back with more coverage anytime there's another Penn State commit. There's more places to go. There's more positions to fill. We'll have it here, so subscribe so you don't miss anything from Blue White Illustrated.